Right, so we're going to continue working on Meal Wheel, and I'd like to improve it today so that it works on, so the map functionality is somewhat present. Let's do a first version of that and then let's improve it. So we're going to look on the storyboard and go to this restaurant view controller right here. I think I'm going to get rid of the X that we put in last time, and I'm going to make this push on top of the navigation controller, changing from that popover, that modal segue to the show segue. And just to make sure, it looks like this is going to be underneath that, so I'm going to click and drag, and it's vertical spacing to the top layout guide. I think it's going to be underneath of it. I'm going to use the standard value for this top space to top layout guide, that constraint. And I think now that I update the frames, it will be in the right spot. So just to confirm, I'm going to run it. Just make sure we're starting with a semi-clean slate that's not super ugly. Okay, so that looks pretty decent. But we've got the name of the restaurant we're going to and this $sign. We're still missing a bunch of fields that we'd like to link up to our data set. The one that I want to start with is kind of the most complicated, is the map. And we want to show a map with a pin on it to where the restaurant is. So to get that, I'm going to type in map over here in my controls and find this MapKit view. I'd like to click and drag it onto the view. I'm going to put it underneath here. I'd like it to be full width and centered, you could say. So I'm going to make it equal width to its container, and I'm going to make it centered horizontally, and I'm going to put it right underneath the Dairy Queen, the title. So that would be vertical spacing. Yes. Also, you see I've still got errors. I think it's because it needs a height, and I will just control drag to itself and give it a height constraint. And it set the height equal to 128. I'm just going to change that to 200 so that it's always 200 pixels tall.
Did you know about that live preview that you can get from both? I mean, I know it takes a full screen space, but that's what helped me a lot.
So good call, Jesse. As you're developing and you want to see what this looks like on the phone, you can click this.
You need to go to where it says automatic. It's near there, or preview.
Here, I'm going to go to automatic. I'm going to go to preview, and then this. And this will show you what your storyboard on the left would look like on a phone. On the right, this is like on a real 4-inch phone. And if you'd like to see it on a different device, you can just click here, and you'll see this is what it would look like on a big iPhone.
And you can also turn them landscape.
You can rotate them like so to see what they'd look like. So that's kind of useful, whereas the storyboard doesn't show you how it's actually going to look. This is a lot closer to how it would look. For now, I'm going to close that. It's a good tool. Thank you, Jesse, for reminding me of that. It really beats repeatedly launching the simulator just to see if your layout is right, see if your constraints are right. Okay. Now, if we launch this right now, it's not going to do anything interesting. It's going to show like a really zoomed out picture of the whole world. So in order to make this work, we want to implement what's called a protocol. We're going to let our view controller, the restaurant view controller, help out this map view. So the map view has this protocol that's called the MK map view delegate. And this protocol has a set of methods, almost events, that happen in the MK map view. And instead of doing its default things, it's going to send those events to our view controller and let our view controller handle it. Does that make sense? So it's sort of a way to delegate, right, responsibility. Because the map view, even though it knows how to do all its stuff, it doesn't know the special things that we want to do. So this is kind of a different pattern from doing a subclass. instead of doing a subclass to put your custom code in the subclass, you use one class. You use two different classes where you link them together, where our class is going to get these events. Some methods are going to be fired to handle the customization of this view. There are a couple things we can do first. Let me come back to the restaurant view controller.swift. The first thing I have to do is I need to have an outlet to that map view. So I'm going to get both of these up at the same time. I know that's hard to see. So I'm going to control drag from the map view over here to my code, my view controller, to create an outlet that is just called map view. So now I have a reference to it on this. Why is this angry at me? Okay, it knows it should be of type mkMapView, but I haven't imported the framework for that, so I need to say import MapKit. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to build. You can do Control B to build without running. I do that a lot just to make sure that everything's compiling. Make sure it tried to compile. All right, so now I have a reference to that. Let me see if this is going to work. I would like onViewDidLoad here. All I'm doing right now is just setting the name of the restaurant that's been selected into that label. I would like to use the lat long that's in the selected restaurant and show a pin on the map for that. I'm going to need some data, some new variables for that, some new constants. I think none of these, I don't have to change any of these, so I can use let on all of them. So I'm going to create a point annotation, which is of type mkPointAnnotation, and that will be equal to mkPointAnnotation. Oh, okay. Thanks a lot, Swift. I haven't used it yet because you haven't given me time. It kind of is annoying to me. I want
to add two delegates in?
Let me wait on that. Okay, we stored, if you remember, we stored the lat and long as in a restaurant as a CL location. Yeah? Well, we could see that as a mistake, or we can actually use that. It has more data than what we need. What we need is a data type that's a CL location coordinate 2D or something like that. It's a long thing with a lot of pieces. But we can get one of those pieces of data out of this one. So let me just look at the one screen right now. So I'm going to convert my location to the coordinates that I need. So I'm going to say let coordinates equal, and then I'm going to get the selected restaurant dot location dot coordinate. And you see this CL location coordinate 2D? That's the data type of the thing that I want.
It's going to be pretty exact.
It will be exactly what we typed in when we created the restaurant. So it's going to be ridiculous.
I can give you some better ones.
Well, let's just roll with this, and then I'll have an improvement. I'm also going to create a point annotation dot, well, I'm going to say point annotation dot coordinate equal coordinates. So this point annotation is the variable constant we just created here. We're going to set the coordinates property. We're doing all this so that we get a pin. And then we're going to say point annotation dot title. We'll give this a title equal to the selected restaurant dot name. So what this is going to give us is the pin, it's going to have a little bubble that comes out of it that has the name on it, and the pin's going to be in the right spot. Lastly, we want to say self.mapView. So we're going to add an annotation by add annotation, and we have point annotation to the map view. And lastly, I want to make sure that the map is centered on this coordinate where this point annotation is. So I'm going to say self.mapView.center coordinate. Notice that that is of that CL location coordinate 2D. And that's equal to, we called it coordinates. This is telling me that I've got to unwrap this in both places because it's optional. That's a little bit unsafe. If that thing was nil, that would crash. So really it should be in a if let. But let's just roll with this and see if it works.
You don't use set region?
I do, but I don't have to. I don't think yet.
Now we can try catching things.
Let's see if it works. Boom! There's our McDonald's. Right there in those, the lat long that we made up in our data set.
McDonald's in the ocean.
Yes, you can double click to zoom in. Oh, it's a little wet. No, there it is, McDonald's. So it says McDonald's when we click on it because that's what a point annotation does when we gave it the title of the restaurant name. So we see some issues with this. So what we, I guess, should do is in our data set, we should instantiate all those static objects to have the right lat long. That's no good. I do not like that. Instead, we're going to do something a little bit smarter and cooler called geocoding. So we're going to put addresses in, like street addresses, and then we can very easily convert that street address to a lat long because we'd rather have street address for human users. In fact, street address probably ought to be listed on here somewhere. It wasn't in my original designs, but we need the lat long to show it on the map. So let me show you how we can improve what we've got to include this geocoding. So I'm going to just comment this out. Some of it may come back. Actually, let me just put all this up here. Now, let's improve this. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do is fix my restaurants. So here, in order for me to have an address, I need to have an address object in all my restaurants, that restaurant object. So I'd like to, maybe here with location, I want to have a var street address equals string. And that doesn't need to be optional because they have to actually have an address. That would never be optional, right? And then I will also take that in here as street address string, comma. And then down here, self dot street address equals street address. Okay, and when I do that, then all of my restaurant objects that I create are wrong because they don't have this new value. I emailed you a file that has all this data in it, and I actually copy pasted all of the correct addresses for these different restaurants. So if you've got that, you can just copy paste that out. The lat longs are wrong, and I'm just going to ignore those. But the addresses are right. So, and they also follow this new constructor syntax. Good. Does that make sense? So we've got, so this is 447 East Main Street, Henderson, Tennessee. McDonald's is 438 East Main Street. Yeah. So. No, we don't. So I think if we were going to do it this way, we probably could just get rid of lat long. If we could just always geocode it, or we would probably save the lat long in after we geocode it once so that they're always there. So lots of room for improvement. So now that my data has the data that I want, let me go back to the restaurant view controller and show you how to do this geocoding. So I'm going to create a variable, actually I can let it, called geocoder. Yeah, we're not going to change this variable. We can call methods on it without changing it. So we're going to let geocoder equal a CL geocoder. There it is, CL geocoder. CL stands for core location. It's the framework that deals with location in iOS. So we're going to create a new one of those. And then I'm just going to call this one method. I'm going to say geocoder dot geocode address string, and I want this one. I pass in an address string, which is our street address, the full street address, and a completion handler. And basically what you're passing in there, anything that has this completion handler, means this is the closure, this is the block of code that's going to be executed when the function finishes, after the geocoding's done. And usually those closures are going to take some parameters that you can use inside them. Like we're going to need to know what was the value that it found for the lat and long. And the best way to deal with this that I've seen is to use Xcode. Because when you let Xcode help you out, it's going to give you the signatures that you want, the method signatures. So the address string is easy. It's simply the selected restaurant dot street address. You're going to press tab, and then in here, press enter, and it expands this out, and it shows you, right, just like I've been putting on the quizzes, that this is a function that takes in an optional array of CL place marks and an optional error object. And it returns void, and everything between these two curly braces is the code that you want to execute. They even put a nice little, the word code there to remind you. So I'm going to name this optional array of CL place marks, and I'm going to call the error object error. And then I'm going to go to my code and actually do some stuff with the code. Let me be a little bit safe here and say if error is not equal to nil, which would mean we have an error, then I'm going to print error. And you could say, yeah, that's okay. What's this angry at me about? Oh, I didn't unwrap this correctly. I'm going to take it, so I have to put the parentheses around it and put the unwrapping after all this. Thank you, Xcode, for doing that for me. Okay, so if there's an error, I'll print the error. Otherwise, I'm going to save the value of the first place mark in the array of place marks. I think it returns an array in case you were ambiguous and it gave you back several. We're just going to say we want the first one, if it found any. So I'm going to say if let place mark equal place marks. So place mark is this variable I'm just creating, or the constant I'm just creating. Place marks is this array. So I'm going to say place marks at 0 as question mark CL place mark. And I've probably forgotten to unwrap something in here. Yes, right here. I think I have to make this unwrapped for that to work. So if this worked, then in this function right here, in this else block, this place mark is going to have the lat long of the address that I geocoded. So I'm going to let the coordinates constant equal place mark dot location dot coordinate, because I want that CL location 2D, coordinate 2D. I'm going to let the point annotation equal a new MK point annotation. I'm going to let the point annotation dot coordinate equal my coordinates. This is just like what we did before when we were getting the coordinates straight out of the restaurant object. And I'll say that the point annotation dot title equals selected restaurant dot name. And when I do this, I'm going to get an error because selected restaurant is an instance variable on the restaurant view controller. And when we are executing code that's in a closure, Swift wants us to remember that we are, in fact, kind of linking ourselves, having a reference to another object, which is this restaurant view controller object. So I have to say self here to be explicit about that it's coming from a different object. The restaurant, the selected restaurant is a member of the restaurant view controller object. And then I can say self.mapView .add annotation. This is just like what we did before, and the annotation is called point annotation. And I can say self.mapView center coordinate equals, still have that in coordinates. Build that. So still have to unwrap this thing. So I probably should have an if-let that checks to make sure that we actually got this coordinate before I use it 4 times. It's only going to crash once, though.
I think the warning is because you got the question mark at the ends.
Yeah, I think I'm doing something wrong there, but I'm not sure how to fix it. Do you know how to fix it? Because when I tried to fix it, it just got worse. And it works like this. It's saying that I'm conditionally casting, but it's only ever going to be one thing.
Can you not just put an exclamation mark there?
Here? So let's see if this works. I'm going to run it, and if we're lucky, not just lucky, if we're good, then it should show the actual marker on the real location of these different restaurants. So, well, that's in Henderson at least. Is that Taco Bell? I don't know. I really have to zoom in to see this. This is so annoying.
Yep, it is.
Yep.
Boom! Taco Bell. Satisfaction. But that was really annoying to have to zoom in like that, wasn't it? Wouldn't it be nice if it was already zoomed in? Or if it zoomed in an animated way?
Yeah, if it like started at like a view of all of America and then it just like.
Let's do that.
You do place marks with mark dot first without any errors.
So place marks equals place marks dot first.
And you'll need question mark. You need question mark before the period.
That's cleaner. I like that. Thank you, Tyler. All right, so what we do on this is we are going to create a region on which we want to zoom in on, a region object, and we're going to give that region object a center coordinate and a span, which is how many kind of degrees of latitude, longitude that we want included in the region. So I'm going to first create a span object. So I'm going to say let span equal MK coordinate span. And I'm going to pass in the, you see here, the latitude delta and the longitude delta. So that's the difference. So I'm going to make this, I think I found that 0.003 worked okay, but you could tweak this to get exactly what you want. It's pretty zoomed in. All right, then I'm going to say let region equal, I'm going to create a new region by giving it, this is an MK coordinate region right here. And I'm going to pass in a center, where my center is just going to be the coordinate, and the span is going to be the span. that we just made.
Get rid of the center coordinate.
Oh, sorry. So in order to make one of these, I have to say coordinate span make. Hey. All right, one more thing. So I've created the span, which I use to create my region. And then I'm going to say self dot map view dot set region. And it takes two parameters. One is a region object, which we just made, and the other one is animated, whether or not to animate this zooming. And I'm going to say true because I'd like to see that. Did I miss something, Seth?
I have a MK coordinate region make.
I think this worked for me. Usually the make on there means that it's creating structs instead of objects. They're structs, and there are these factory methods that make those. Let's see if this works. Boom! I do not think the Chow Wagon's at Chester County High School, though. Must have got the wrong address for that.
Yeah, and Subway is China King.
Yeah, that's close. You're in the ballpark.
Not good enough.
So, got a zooming map with, and we did geocoding with very little code. I think this is a win, you know? It was sort of complicated stuff.
Because that animated false, we can see that.
Yeah, if you get tired of that zooming, which it does get old pretty fast, just set this animated to false and it'll just start zoomed in.
How do you slow it down?
I don't know how to change that.
Next
That
step,
seemed kind of fast for it to be.
Well, it's a long distance to zoom in.
next step is to send that.
Where you are compared to where you're going.
Hey, that's a good idea. How could we show ourselves? I looked that up and it is more complicated than you would hope it would be because Apple cares about your privacy. So let me show you what you have to do to get your location on here. Okay, I'm going to, I need an object called a CL location manager, which I'm going to set to be an instance variable in this class. So I'm going to say var location manager, and that equals a CL location manager right here. So I'll have one of those to use when I want it. The example I found did it this way. I'm sure this isn't the only way, but I think there's probably some advantages to doing it this way. We're going to override the viewDidAppear method, and we're going to check the location authorization status. If it's already been authorized, then you can do it. If not, then when viewDidAppear, it will it'll check. So I'm going to say, well, first of all, I'm going to say super viewDidAppear animated. What this is doing is calling the viewDidAppear method in my superclass, which should be what a UI view controller is the superclass of the restaurant view controller. And I'm just going to pass along that. So anything that it needs to do to set up, we're going to let it do its viewDidAppear first. Then I'm going to do my stuff. And I'd like to, I'm just going to put all this in a function. I'm going to say check location authorization status, which we'll define below. So this will be a function check location authorization status. Did I spell that right? I think so. And in here, I'm going to first check to see if the CL location manager dot authorization status equals, I think it's called dot authorized when in use. I think there's two possible values. It's like authorized, well, there's more than two. because the person could deny access. But I think there's an old one where the app can use it all the time, even when the app isn't running. And this is the preferred one, which is doing it while only when the app is in use. So unless there's a really essential reason why you need to be that invasive to the user's privacy, then you should use this one. So I'm going to check to see if it's been authorized.
You have to ask them if that's what you're doing.
And if so, I'm going to say self.mapview.show shows user location equals to true. If this isn't authorized when in use, then I'll say location manager dot request when in use authorization. And so this is what will cause it to, if it's not set, it'll pop it up and say, hey, do you want to allow this app to use your location? Except that it won't, because there's something else you have to do.
Is there any way of people doing that without?
Delegate.
This is what you have to do. And this is something we haven't done very much before. You have to go to your, you have to go down here to the info.plist. Remember, plist is like a property list that has some settings about your project, and you have to add a setting that has a special key, and then the value that you give it is the text that comes up in that, I think in that pop-up box. Like part of it you don't set, and part of it you do. It's what's under the title that you're explaining to the user why they ought to give the app access. I am not going to remember this, so let me find my handy dandy.
And its location.
Yes, I Googled this. It's NS location when in use usage description. Ugh, and you have to type it exactly right. So I'm going to add a new key. NS. I already forgot. Location. NS.
Can you copy and paste?
And its
I can.
location.
I know that you didn't have it.
When in use, usage description. I had another one. And this location always usage description.
That's probably, it's if you're going to ask to always use the location. And then over here in the value, this is of data type string, and I'm going to give it this string. This will allow you to see nearby restaurants.
Your current location. You see the restaurants.
So now still, when we run this in the simulator, right, what location does the simulator have? Because the simulator definitely doesn't have GPS. Well, at least we do see that this is asking us, should we allow this? I can say, love it.
That was an accident.
Right. So you see here, this top title part is what they write for you, and the bottom part is what we've written. So I'm going to say allow. If you come up here to hardware, is that right? Debug. Under location, it has no location right now, but you could set it so that your location was at Apple or whatever, or a custom location where you enter the lat long. I think this is actually Freed's lat long. I looked it up, 35.43 and negative 88.63. So if I say that,
We get some very exact location services where my current position would not equal your current position. Plus the
You haven't set up any delegates.
I don't know if am I using the delegates? I don't think I am yet. So yeah, so now once I reloaded it, it did work. So this is my current location, and that is McDonald's. So It might be kind of smart. If I was going to be really smart about it, I might make sure that when I set my region, the region included both where I am now and the restaurant, instead of just setting it statically to that 0.003 delta. There would be, I think there are other methods that would make it easy to make a region that includes two. Anyway,
That's the law then.
so that's how we'd include that. And this would be even more interesting if you ran it on an actual device. You wouldn't have to, set the location. It would just be where you're at. Although you can override it, I learned today, and make it such that even when the app's on your phone in debug mode, it's in a certain place. Okay, questions about what we saw here? Apologize, I did introduce the delegate thing, but we didn't use it because we didn't have to use the delegate for this stuff. We would have to use the delegate protocol if we were going to show annotations that we were in control over, which I don't want to do yet. I would like to improve this layout, though. There's a lot more stuff that we'd like to add to this view. Wouldn't you? Yeah. So one thing that would be nice would be to show, this is the most important piece of information, the number of stars, right? Because if it has a low star rating, you're definitely not going to Dairy Queen. So I'm going to find a label. I'm going to drag it out over here. There's different ways you could do this one. I thought this might be kind of clean. So there's my label. I'm going to...
Sometimes stars are misleading because there'll be like 3 reviews and 2 of them are just people who didn't get a napkin with their meal.
Well, we're going to just assume the best about people, and we're not making up the reviews. We would link it to some service. So I'm going to control drag, create some vertical spacing, and create some leading spacing to container margin. And this is going to be my star label. I think a clean way of doing this would be to go online, look up Unicode star, and you can get this character. This is the way I always do it. Then come down here, you can copy this. I copied it. And then you can paste it, and it's just a character. And iOS deals with Unicode characters really, really well. So you could do emoji stars, yes. So I'm going to get one of these white stars too, so it'll look like it's empty, and so that it shows that it's a 4 out of 5 stars, like that. So I want to make sure that I'm good. This is just a placeholder, just to show you what it would look like. So in the code, we need to see what the star rating is, and then create a string that is as many stars as are present, but truncated down. So if it's a 4.3, it would be 4 stars. We can't do half stars in this using this method.
Trying using the Unicode definition.
I'm just going to paste in that character into my code. So I think that's a pretty clean way of doing it. I think too, this would allow me to style this however I want. So if I wanted to change the color, I can do that because it's just text. I think it's kind of elegant. You could change the size too by just changing the font size. It seems a little bit easier to do this than to work with images, although you could work with images. I don't know, whatever. So let's see if we can make that work. One thing that I will definitely need, oh, it's so small, is I'm going to need a reference to this label, an outlet. So I'm going to control drag from here to here, and I'm going to create an outlet called star label. No, that's just star label. Yeah. I will say too, to me, it feels like all this geocoding stuff is kind of gunking up viewed load. It's an independent task. What does that scream out to you? Does that scream out? This should be in a function, right? It should just be in its own function. So for one, let me delete all this because I'm not using it anyway. We're doing it the better way. So I would say it might be nice to come down here and say, make a function funct geocode. Let me call it setup map, because it's doing all that stuff, isn't it? Yeah. Let me say setup map, and then I'm going to take all of this from the let geocode down to wherever it ends. I think it's all that, and just paste it. Why did I lose that? Oh, setup map. Here we go. And then in view did load, I'll just call setup map. To me, that seems a lot cleaner. And likewise, I think I'd like to make another function that's setup stars. Create a var. It can be a let. Yes, let filled star equals. Oops. Quote quote. I'm going to say let empty star equals quote quote. Go back to here. Copy. Paste. Paste. It's those warnings because I'm not using them. Let me figure out how many stars this is. So if I were to, I need to get the star rating from the selected restaurant. So that could be a let too, I guess. Let star rating equals, let me just try converting to an int the selected restaurant dot star rating. And then can I just have a for loop that iterates and creates a string just by appending the filled star to the string? So var star string equals quote quote, and then for I really want a C style loop here, which probably means I'm doing this wrong. So for I in, I need a range, which in Swift I say 1 dot dot star rating. I didn't practice this ahead of time, I'm sorry. Is that right? Anybody? No for it?
You might have to put a less than in front of star rating. Less than the equal to. Like after the two dots.
You might need one more dot.
I was thinking it might be.
Okay.
It's dot dot less.
Dot dot less than.
It's
Doesn't recognize the data type of star rating.
Okay,
Change
it's
your star rating, change the question mark to an exclamation.
thank you. Okay. So for loop Swift.
Mine's working. Mine's not having an error. I don't have parentheses around mine,
Is that what it is?
but or the bar. You probably don't need that either.
Yeah.
Let me get rid of this. Okay. I can say let.
You don't have to put anything.
Okay, so I want to say star string. Can I say plus equals? That would be awesome if I could. I guess I never use it, do I? I never use I, so they're saying I can replace it with underscore so that because it's nothing I ever use. And then for underscore in it's 5 minus the star rating, right? So
No, put it right next to the.
then I'm going to say that the star label dot text equals the star string, right? Let me go into my data set and make sure that I have some different values for the star rating. Maybe y'all can help me out with this. Taco Bell, what do you think? Okay, 4.5. McDonald's, 3.1. DQ,
4.5. Pretty good, I think. Really coming along.
3.5. It's really coming along. It's brand new.
4.5.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I read it off my brother.
I'm sorry. Sonic, I need something in the twos. What's going to be in the twos? Subway, Jack's, or Chow Wagon? Put McDonald's in the twos? Okay.
Jack's is awesome. I don't know.
Jack's is awesome. Okay, then Jack's gets a 5. So we can. You what's that? You feel sick after eating Chow Wagon? Okay, I'm gonna give it a 1.3. And Subway?
3.5. They had this Mediterranean chicken with tzatziki sauce, and they told me, they reassured me that it would be around for a while. We'll get back next week. It's gone.
That hurts. Wow.
Review right down.
So let us.
We can make you the chicken, but we don't have the sauce.
What are the chances this works? Do you think this is gonna work? Ah,
It's because you have one less than, you need less than or equal to. I was thinking that's gonna be an issue. Or I guess you might be able to.
It-
0.
do you guys remember that? Is it? I thought I didn't need that less than. You do? What do I do if I want it to be included?
Yeah, you can make it 6 minus star rating and star rating plus 1.
I remember they changed the syntax for that.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Before you could just do dot 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 and it would be inclusive.
Yeah.
But they don't have that anymore? So I just need to add one here
Maybe
and
you
one
just
here?
do equals instead of the less than equals.
I'm on the programming language, it still says you can do 3 dots.
No.
Oh, okay. So 3 dots is inclusive. Then I don't need that. And
You don't need that.
we'll change those to 3 dots. That is an inclusive range.
We did try that.
I thought we did too. I don't know what I did wrong.
Something else that was common.
So
Maybe we got the space.
is Subway 3? I forgot now. Is that right?
It was 3.5.
Okay. I would expect it to just truncate. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Expand.
So now I'm going from 1 to 0 inclusive. Thought about this. That's bad. So I need to say can maybe I could start at 0, and it would do 1 dot 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 0.
Well, the original thing was starting at 5 minus starting and working your way to 5.
Yeah. I mean, you can start with 0 and do less than. Did we already say that?
No, I like that. I like that. So then we'll do 0 less than, and then is it still less than? Was McDonald's too? Subway, 3. Jack's, 5. That's right. Has anybody ever had a bologna biscuit? How about the smoked sausage biscuit? You can't get those just anywhere. Chow wagon. Not at Chester County High School. But that's the geocoder's fault, not ours. Are you sure that's China King? No. It's just because you're not zoomed in. That's Subway. Yeah. Okay, so there's still lots we can do to this app, and I think we've seen some significant improvements today, albeit I'm not good at for loops in Swift. I'm sorry, did not rehearse that. We've learned how to connect your own phone so that you can run your apps. You can debug your own apps on your own devices.
You put lead all over my computer.
No respect. No respect. That's almost as bad as taking away his Mediterranean chicken salad or whatever it was.
I don't let people touch my stuff.
Yeah. We also saw how to use, we got a taste for MapKit. MapKit is huge and there's lots more stuff you could do with it. But this is a lot better than it was. There are, we saw how to do location, like the user's location, right? And we saw how to do a little bit with core location. And we made a really cool star label. I'm super pleased by that. It does work. So we shall continue working on this, and I think we could bring it to an even more impressive state. For example, completing the rest of the labels that should go here, like the site,